Let's talk here as we're sitting at the home of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Chase Field, with the guy, the architect of the roster that currently sits in first place in the NL West, Mike Hazen, the GM. Mike, good to see you.
Guys, how are you?
Very good, very good.
Doing that, huh? We're doing that?
Oh, yeah. That's, Mr. Enthusiasm over here. You know what's coming.
Wait, are you saying that I'm going to bring bad luck by reminding our audience that you're in first place in the NL West?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Not do that?
It has been a terrific start to the year. Exceeding expectations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's fair.
Is that a fair way to describe it?
We've played pretty well the first couple months.
But, Mike, what has been the turnaround?
The turnaround has been started last year in the second half. If you go back to the second half with us, we brought a lot of these kids up. Mm-hmm. We played with a different energy, with a different profile in the whole second half of last season. Until we get to the very end against the Dodgers and the Padres, got beat up a little bit. We went at it with the Phillies, with the Brewers in September, and we were playing good baseball. Corbin Carroll coming up, obviously energized from an offensive and defensive standpoint. Our pitching was better, and that group has now come back around, and they're playing full time. And I think we're in most of our games. We play hard every single night. We've taken our lumps at times, but for the most part, we give most teams a run for their money.
Greg and I were talking about this. We're always trying to dissect why teams are doing what. The rule changes have really affected your club. Did you build this team knowing these rules were coming, or as they were coming, you made the adjustments along the way? Did they affect your club at all?
I don't think so, because we had built this through the draft for the most part, so we had done that a couple years ago. It has certainly benefited us. We play in an up-tempo style. We play fast. We run a lot. We track balls down in the outfield, so our defense has been in a pretty good spot. We got Gabby Moreno, who shut down the running game for us. A lot of those things have worked out very well in our favor, yes.
It is. I always think it's fascinating when teams take advantage of a surplus. And you had a surplus of outfielders. Dalton Varsho, to me, I thought had a breakout year. To trade a young man who's just getting started to get a catcher like Moreno, is that an easy thing to do, to trade from a surplus?
It was the hardest thing we did all offseason. Dalton Varsho was one of the guys in our clubhouse that kind of made the engine run in the second half of last year. We didn't go into the offseason looking to trade him. In fact, we sort of were pushing teams away from him. Maybe we'll talk about some other guys, but, we're not really interested. But we got to the end of the offseason, or the middle of the offseason, and we hadn't made a lot of ground up. And we knew there were things that may be available to us. We ultimately decided to do it. It was a huge risk. I think it's going to work out pretty well for both teams. They obviously have an elite player. We got a couple of elite players. And getting the 2-for-1 for us was probably the biggest thing for us, was getting both Gurriel and Moreno, because it helped round out our club in a way that just Dalton wasn't going to be able to do for us given the other guys we had. So we'll see what happens. It's going to take 3 or 4 years to really decide how that trade goes down, but we're happy with where we're at right now.
It started not last year. It started before that. It started with Zach Gallen. What did you see in Zach Gallen, knowing if we got this guy, that he was going to be what he is?
Trying to acquire elite starting pitching, guys that pitch in the 1-2, is nearly impossible. It is impossible. It's expensive. You have to give up half your farm system most of the time to get them. Once they're established, right? To get those guys at the peak. Or you have to draft them, and that's complicated in the time needed to get them to the major leagues. We were taking a risk. We traded our number 1 prospect at the time to do it. And to get him before he kind of broke out was what we were looking to do. And he had always been an elite performer, and so we were betting that was going to translate, and it's translated for us. And every 5th day, we're lucky he's pitching for us.
Before we let you go, we have time for one more question. How does the MLB Draft Combine, how is it used as an asset for your organization?
Getting information about these guys, players that, especially from a front office standpoint, we don't have as much access to. The meetings we get to meet these guys, to get to know who they are as players. It's probably the biggest separator in guys when they're drafted. All these kids can play. They can all have talent. For us to get to know what we want to get done with those players in the minor leagues, get to know who they are, how they work, we get so much more information with that. And I think that benefits the players and it benefits the clubs.
Do you like the pressure of them sitting in a room with 10, 15 people and having to answer that?
For sure.
Think it tells a lot about
it. Maturity is a big thing. I mean, how they're going to handle failure of baseball. We all know it's not like football or basketball. You're going down to the complex or you're going to A-ball, and you're going to see kids throwing 95 to 100 every night, unlike high school or college, and it's a tough game to carve your way through the minor leagues. And so having that mental toughness is a big part of our game, as you know very well. well.
Last thing before we go, Greg may have one more, but we got to ask you about Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
I mean, you did the big contract before people expected to see what we're seeing. You've had your eye on him a long time, since he was back in the Northwest, growing up as a kid. Why Corbin Carroll, and why is he doing what he's doing?
I don't know why he's doing what he's doing. I don't think any of us knew that he was going to do something like this. He is an exceptional human being. He works as hard, if not harder, than anybody on our team. He's as committed to becoming a great player as anybody we've been around. That's why we did what we did contractually. We were fortunate to get him in the draft the way we did, to have those teams pass on him. We liked him. We had him at the top of our board, near the top of our board. But to have that many teams pass, our scouts did a good job, but we got a little lucky too. And we've been very fortunate ever since to have him. He's a catalyst for our team. He goes out there and sets the tone, and he's helped get us to where we are right now and hopefully into the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Well, Mike, we're fortunate to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time. Starting the pitchers, getting their workout. I know you want to watch that.
Yeah.
So you can get back to doing it. Mike Hazen, GM of the Diamondbacks, congratulations on a great start.
Thanks,
so
guys.
far.
Appreciate it.